Welcome to the channel, guys. We are back again, and today I'm going to be doing first impression for Greenely by Parfums de Marly and Stronger With You Freeze. So stay tuned for that. And if you like the content, hit that like and subscribe button. Really do appreciate it. So I was lucky enough to get a sample of Greenely. For those of you who do not know, this was originally released under the name Sutton. And through some mix-up, there was a copyright infringement that was placed against them. They then changed the name to something else that I don't really remember. And then that also had some problems, so they changed it to Greenely. I will say up front, I'm a little surprised that happened. A lot of these larger companies should or do have someone in the legal department who would check that sort of thing for them. But nonetheless, the mistake was made. I also really wanted to try Stronger With You Freeze, because I do really like Stronger With You. Something you can wear more in the summer did appeal to me because it is definitely a fall-winter fragrance. So I'm going to check that one out too. I'm going to jump into Parfums de Marly Greenely because I have been excited to try it out. Now, as I mentioned, this one was briefly released and then taken off shelves. I think it's going to be released in October. I'm not entirely sure. The same fragrance, just a different name. But let's get into it. So, there we go. So it does have quite a freshness. I don't actually pick up the apple per se with this fragrance. I know it has an apple note, but it doesn't come off that crisp. Okay, it's starting to actually... The apple is actually starting to develop. That is actually pretty nice. It's a little bit sweet. Now, I actually read that somebody said this reminded them of Fierce or also Percival, which is another offering from Parfums de Marly that sometimes gets compared to Fierce. And you know, I kind of actually get that a little bit. There is this underlying sort of DNA there that does have that sort of fresh, almost... It does have sort of a newish or new age vibe. Even though Fierce is a fairly old fragrance, it's almost watery, almost aquatic. And definitely has sort of a new or newer feel to it. It doesn't feel dated, even though, as I mentioned, Fierce is an older fragrance. It does have a slightly fruity accord. I was expecting a lot more, especially in the opening, more fruitiness, and it definitely doesn't really have that. There is a touch of fruitiness there. There is a little bit of that freshness, and there is a little bit of an underlying Percival vibe that is a little bit almost aquatic, but not really. It has this sort of watery feel to it, though. I do get a little bit of a subtle woodiness. This is definitely feeling like a masculine fragrance, which is an enjoyable fact about it. And honestly, just off first impression, I think this is one that could be worn more than just spring-summer, although it is more geared towards that. I think it would easily be something you could wear year-round because this is a very, very easy-to-wear fragrance. Something that I think is quite appealing, inoffensive, and I think it's a very versatile DNA. But I'm going to go over to Stronger With You Freeze, give that one a shot. So, that's Greenely. Let's go over to Freeze. So I'm basically expecting with this one, similar DNA as Stronger With You, but a fresher opening. And definitely that is the way this one is coming off. I do get a lighter sort of, that Stronger With You DNA is very, very prominent, but it is a little bit lighter. It's not quite as sweet, not quite as thick, and there is a slight freshness there, although I wouldn't really say this is fresh. It is, in a sense, I think, light enough you probably could wear it in the spring. I wouldn't wear this in the heat, but of course, I think anyone can wear whatever they want. It does have actually a really nice lime note that is mixing in with that sweetness. And I do love lime in a fragrance. I think it's one of the best, but not, I mean, it is in a lot of fragrances, but it's not as used as I feel like it should be, given how good it can be in a fragrance. It can have this nice fizzy appeal to it, and it does smell very nice. But I definitely get that slightly syrupy, sweet, stronger with you DNA very, very prominently. It does have a definite warmth to it. And that's again why, although it is supposed to be more of a summery fragrance, I always wondered how they'd really pull it off with this fragrance, because it is, you know, it is such a thick, sweet, cozy fragrance that is much, much better suited for the fall and winter. And this one so far, I definitely get the same DNA. If I had or owned Stronger With You, I probably, at least off first whiff, wouldn't really get this fragrance because it is, in a sense, redundant. It does have a lighter note to it. It does come off a little less thick. And if you think that Stronger With You, you like it, but it's a little too strong, on first impression, I'd say this might be something that you'd like to try out, because it is a lighter, Stronger With You. Given that, though, I don't know that it's actually still as light as I would want or as fresh as I would prefer for a summery fragrance. It is still somewhat thick, it is still very sweet, and I would have to see how it performs in the heat. But it does smell really, really good. I'm just debating whether or not it could actually be a summer fragrance. So I'm going to return to Greenly, see if it's developed a little bit, see what is going on with that one. So there is a bit of a fruity vibe still there. I get a little bit of crispness, and I think that's the apple. I do kind of get like a bit of a Percival vibe, but it is definitely not identical in any way, but it has a similar undertone. And honestly, I think if I owned Percival, I wouldn't get this, actually, because it is very, very... It's definitely in this very similar genre. You know, there's Sedley as well as a fresh one, and as Galloway for the house. Those two are completely different. They're also quite different from Percival, but this one seems almost like... I almost want to call it a flanker. There's a little bit of fizziness there, which is actually kind of nice. Overall, I do think it's a good fragrance. I don't think... I find this one particularly wow factor, as I would have liked, especially with the price point that this one is going to come in as. Now, with Parfums de Marly, there are a lot of gray market opportunities to pick this fragrance up, or not yet, but these fragrances up, and you can often find Parfums de Marly for as inexpensive as, say, a more expensive designer, which is not to say that's cheap, but it's a lot cheaper than, say, the full retail price, and it puts it more in the around $120 to $140 range. But there is actually that really nice apple that's really, really prominent there, and I think if you like a nice crisp green apple, it's worth checking out. So it does also have a little bit of woodiness there. I'm getting a little bit of those undertones, which do provide a somewhat masculine base. A little bit of that oak moss is starting to become a little bit more prominent. It has an almost tart quality there too, and again, I think that's going to be the green apple, just because green apple can be a little bit tart. But it has a sweetness, a little bit of a tartness, and a little bit of a woody quality. So it is a nice, easy-to-wear, mass-appealing masculine fragrance. And I think it's definitely worth checking out. And it's something that next summer, when it's a little bit more suitable, I might revisit it and see if I like it enough. But I am also going to do a full review of this one, because I find with a lot of fragrances, you need to wear it a couple times to see whether or not you really, really like it. So, going to go back to Stronger With You Freeze, see what's developing with that one. So I will say a lot of that freshness is not really there. It is really just coming off to me as a toned down Stronger With You. It has that sweetness. It does have that addition. I don't think there's a lime note in the original, but it has very, very strong DNA from Stronger With You. And you know what? It's a nice fragrance, but I think for me personally, I would probably buy Stronger With You or Stronger With You Intensely. I am sort of leaning towards Intensely, but I do like Stronger With You as well. More than this one. Although I like that somewhat fresher edge to it, I don't think it really edges out the other two, at least on first impression, with respect to the overall scent profile. And again, I still think this is a little bit too sweet for a summer fragrance. That's just my opinion, though. Anyways, guys, have you tried either of these fragrances? You know, what's your favorite version of Stronger With You? Leave a comment down below and let me know. I'm going to end the video there. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.